Welcome to Prague, the heart of Europe and one of the most enchanting cities in the world. I'm your host, and today we're taking you on an extraordinary journey through the Golden City, a place where medieval towers pierce the sky, where cobblestone streets whisper tales of kings and emperors, and where every corner tells a story that spans over 1,000 years. Prague, or Praha, as locals call it, is the capital of the Czech Republic and home to 1.3 million people. But this isn't just any capital city. This is a living museum, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that has survived wars, revolutions, and the passage of time to emerge as one of Europe's most magnificent urban treasures. Our story begins in the 9th century, around 880 AD, when Prince Boživoj of the Přemyslid dynasty chose a hill overlooking the Vltava River to build what would become Prague Castle. This wasn't just a fortress. It was the beginning of a legacy that would make Prague the seat of power for Bohemian kings, Holy Roman emperors, and eventually presidents of Czechoslovakia and the Czech Republic. The location was perfect. Situated at the crossroads of ancient trade routes, Prague naturally became a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and commerce. The city's strategic position between Eastern and Western Europe made it invaluable, and ambitious rulers recognized its potential early on. By the 10th century, Prague was already establishing itself as a major European center. The Přemyslid dynasty transformed the small settlement into a thriving city, building the first stone structures and establishing Prague as the heart of the Kingdom of Bohemia. If Prague has a golden age, it undoubtedly belongs to the 14th century under Charles IV, one of history's most remarkable rulers. Crowned Holy Roman Emperor in 1346, Charles IV didn't just rule from Prague, he transformed it into the capital of the Holy Roman Empire, making it the most important city in Central Europe. Charles IV was a visionary urban planner. He founded Charles University in 1348, making it the first university in Central Europe and one of the oldest in the world. This institution attracted scholars from across Europe, establishing Prague as a center of learning and culture that rivaled Paris and Oxford. But Charles IV's most enduring legacy is literally built into the city's landscape. He commissioned the construction of Charles Bridge, originally called the Stone Bridge, which began in 1357. This engineering marvel was designed by the court architect Peter Parles and took 45 years to complete, finishing in 1402. The bridge served as the only crossing over the Vltava River until 1841, making it absolutely crucial for trade and movement through the city. Built from sandstone blocks and stretching 516 meters long, Charles Bridge connected the Old Town with the Lesser Town, where Prague Castle stands majestically on the hill. Charles IV also expanded Prague Castle itself, adding Gothic elements that we can still admire today. Under his rule, Prague became known as the Golden City, a nickname that has endured for over 600 years. Let's spend some time on Charles Bridge, because it's not just a river crossing, it's a journey through Prague's soul. Walking across this 14th century masterpiece is like stepping back in time. The bridge is flanked by fortified towers on both ends, the Old Town Bridge Tower and the Lesser Town Bridge Towers, which served as defensive structures and symbolic gateways. The Old Town Bridge Tower, built around 1370 according to designs by Peter Parles, is considered one of the most beautiful Gothic towers in the world. It wasn't just defensive, it was conceived as a symbolic victory arch through which Czech kings passed during their coronation processions. Today, visitors can climb its 138 steps for breathtaking views of the city, but what makes Charles Bridge truly magical are its 30 Baroque statues, added between 1683 and 1928. These aren't just decorations. Each tells a story, represents a saint, or commemorates important events in Prague's history. The most famous is the statue of Saint John of Nepomuk, whose bronze plaque visitors touch for good luck. The bridge has witnessed history in all its forms. In 1621, after the Battle of White Mountain, baskets containing the heads of 12 executed Bohemian lords were hung from the bridge as a grim warning. Between 1723 and 1866, oil lamps illuminated the bridge at night, creating an ethereal atmosphere that artists and writers celebrated in their works. Prague Castle deserves its own chapter because it's not just a castle. It's the largest ancient castle complex in the world, according to the Guinness Book of Records, covering an area of almost 70,000 square meters. For over 1,000 years, it has served as the seat of power, and today it remains the official residence of the President of the Czech Republic. The castle complex is a textbook of architectural history. The original wooden structures were replaced in the 12th century by Prince Sobieslav with Romanesque stonework. Charles IV and his son Wenceslas IV enlarged it significantly, but the most dramatic transformation came after 1483 under Vladislav II. The crown jewel of this reconstruction is Vladislav Hall, completed between 1493 and 1510. This enormous Gothic hall is so large that medieval tournaments were held inside it, with knights riding their horses up a special ramp that still exists today. At the heart of the castle complex stands St. Vitus Cathedral, a Gothic masterpiece that took nearly 600 years to complete. Its soaring spires dominate Prague's skyline, and inside lie the tombs of Bohemian saints and kings. The cathedral's stained glass windows, created by renowned artists including Alphonse Mucha, transform sunlight into kaleidoscopes of color. During the reign of Rudolf II in the late 16th and early 17th centuries, Prague Castle became the residence of Holy Roman emperors once again. Rudolf II was a patron of arts and sciences, and he transformed the castle into a center of Renaissance culture, attracting artists, astronomers, and alchemists from across Europe. From the castle, let's descend into the city's beating heart, Old Town Square. This magnificent space has been Prague's main marketplace since the 10th century, and it remains one of Europe's most beautiful squares. Dominated by the twin spires of the Church of Our Lady before Teen, Old Town Square is surrounded by colorful Baroque buildings, Gothic churches, and the famous astronomical clock. This medieval timepiece, installed in 1410, is the third oldest astronomical clock in the world and the oldest one still operating. Every hour, crowds gather to watch the clock's intricate show as the 12 apostles appear in the windows above, and figures representing vanity, greed, death, and pleasure move in their eternal dance. The clock doesn't just tell time. It displays the position of the sun and moon, zodiac signs, and various calendar information. Old Town Square has witnessed some of Prague's most dramatic moments. In 1419, the first defenestration of Prague occurred nearby, sparking the Hussite Wars. In 1621, 27 Protestant nobles were executed here following the Battle of White Mountain, an event that marked the beginning of the Counter-Reformation's dominance in Bohemia. Prague's Jewish quarter, known as Josefov, tells one of Europe's most poignant stories of survival and persecution. Jews have lived in Prague since the 10th century, and by the Middle Ages, Prague's Jewish community was one of the largest and most important in Europe. The Jewish quarter contains 6 synagogues, each with its own story. The Old New Synagogue, built around 1270, is Europe's oldest active synagogue and one of Prague's earliest Gothic buildings. Legend says that angels carried the stones for its construction from the destroyed temple in Jerusalem. The Jewish cemetery, with its thousands of weathered tombstones crowded together in seemingly chaotic arrangement, is one of the most moving sights in Prague. Due to space constraints and religious law forbidding the relocation of graves, bodies were buried in layers up to 12 deep over 300 years. The cemetery includes the grave of Rabbi Judah Loew ben Bezalel, the famous 16th-century scholar who, according to legend, created the golem, a clay creature brought to life to protect Prague's Jewish community. This legend has inspired countless books, films, and works of art. Today, the Jewish quarter serves as a memorial to the 77,000 Czech Jews who perished in the Holocaust. The Pinka Synagogue has become a moving memorial, with the names of Czech Holocaust victims written on its walls. Prague played a pivotal role in European religious history through the Bohemian Reformation, which preceded Martin Luther's Protestant Reformation by a century. At the center of this movement was Jan Hus, a Czech priest and university professor who challenged the Catholic Church's practices. Hus preached at Bethlehem Chapel in Prague's Old Town, advocating for church reforms and conducting services in Czech rather than Latin. His ideas spread rapidly through Bohemia, but they also made him enemies. In 1415, despite having safe conduct from the Holy Roman Emperor, Hus was burned at the stake for heresy at the Council of Constance. His execution outraged the Bohemian people and sparked the Hussite Wars, which lasted from 1419 to approximately 1434. These wars were among the first successful challenges to papal authority and established Bohemia as a largely Protestant land centuries before the Protestant Reformation spread through northern Europe. The Hussite movement introduced innovations in military tactics, including the use of war wagons and early firearms. Their success on the battlefield forced the Catholic Church to make concessions, and the Hussites gained the right to conduct religious services in Czech and distribute communion wine to laypeople. The Battle of White Mountain in 1620 marked a turning point in Prague's history. The Catholic Habsburg forces defeated the Protestant Bohemian estates, leading to a period of forced re-Catholicization and Germanization. Many Protestant nobles were executed or fled into exile, and their properties were confiscated. However, this dark period also brought architectural transformation. The Habsburgs rebuilt Prague in the Baroque style, creating the magnificent palaces and churches that give the city much of its current character. The lesser town, in particular, was transformed into a showcase of Baroque architecture. Italian and German architects were brought in to redesign the city. Magnificent palaces like the Wallenstein Palace and countless Baroque churches were constructed. The city's skyline was transformed with onion domes and elaborate Baroque towers. This period also saw the creation of many of Prague's beautiful Baroque gardens. The Vrtba Garden, Wallenstein Garden, and others created hidden oases of tranquility within the urban landscape. The 19th century brought a remarkable cultural renaissance known as the Czech National Revival. After centuries of German domination, Czech intellectuals, writers, and artists began reclaiming their language and cultural identity. This movement produced some of Czech culture's most treasured figures. Bedřich Smetana composed Má vlast, My Homeland, including the famous Vltava movement that musically depicts the river flowing through Prague. Antonín Dvořák became internationally celebrated for his symphonies and chamber music. The National Theatre, completed in 1881, became a symbol of Czech cultural identity. Built entirely through public donations, it represents the Czech people's determination to preserve their culture. When it burned down shortly after opening, it was rebuilt within 2 years through another massive public fundraising effort. Prague's Czech character was further strengthened by the founding of Czech-language schools and cultural institutions. The city that had been increasingly German-speaking under Habsburg rule gradually reclaimed its Czech identity. The collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1918 brought Prague its greatest moment of modern triumph. It became the capital of independent Czechoslovakia. Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk, the country's first president, established his residence at Prague Castle. The interwar period was Prague's second golden age. The city became a beacon of democracy in Central Europe, known for its progressive politics, thriving art scene, and modernist architecture. Prague developed strong cultural ties with Paris and became a center of avant-garde art and literature. This golden period ended tragically in 1939, when Nazi Germany occupied Czechoslovakia. Prague suffered under brutal occupation, with the Jewish community virtually destroyed and Czech culture suppressed. The assassination of Nazi leader Reinhard Heydrich in Prague in 1942 led to horrific reprisals, including the complete destruction of the village of Lidice. Liberation came in May 1945, but freedom was short-lived. The communist coup in 1948 brought 4 decades of authoritarian rule. Prague became a showcase of socialist architecture, though thankfully the historic center was largely preserved.